Okay. All right. Well, it's straight up noon. I think we'll go ahead and get started. We do have a lot to cover. I can now say good afternoon, everybody, and still say happy spring. I'm Brooke Lovelace, the director of the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. Thanks for joining us again. I think, gosh, this is our eighth or ninth Capital Chat for the session. Have kind of lost track, but glad you're here. Just a couple of housekeeping things. There should be an interpreter pinned for you. Thanks to Jeff for being here with us today. You should also be able to do closed captioning at the bottom by hitting the More button. Please stay muted until we get to the question parts. And I think with that, I've covered everything. I don't think we have anybody in the waiting room. Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Campbell, and I work with the DD Council. And well, I should have said before this, we have 32 days left of session. And we, of course, can go longer than that. But legislators won't have their staff and they won't get paid for being at the Capitol. So it's a pretty good motivator to get done by April 21st. So 32 more days. That is not working days. That's much fewer, because if you think they only work 3.5, 4 days a week, that's not a lot of days left to get work done. So today is not only the first day of spring, it is also the last funnel deadline. Today is the last day bills had to be out of committee by the end of yesterday, because they don't work on Fridays. So if a bill hasn't made it out of committee in both chambers, so both the House and the Senate, it is no longer eligible for debate. So it is effectively dead, unless you could have a legislator amend it onto another bill, but that's pretty rare when that happens. But it is really no longer eligible for debate. So their budget bills, tax bills, and a few other government oversight bills are eligible at any time. So you'll start to see budget bills coming out pretty soon. But right now, what they will be doing is being in caucus a lot, where they talk about their internal strategy on bills each day, and they'll be debating on the floor. So all of those debates are live streamed, so you can always watch them on the legislative website. I wanted to go through the bills that didn't make the cut. So there's some good news here, and then there's some not good news. Some disappointing news, I should say. But some of the bills that did not make it include House File 2203, which kind of updated the language on the EpiPen bill that passed a few years ago to just state that any type of epinephrine delivery system, instead of just referencing the pens. I can't spell epinephrine, so I didn't try to spell it there. I'm not sure why that didn't make it. It seemed pretty non-controversial. I don't know if they just ran out of time or if schools felt like they were doing that anyway. House File 2250, this was a disappointing one. Carlin worked a lot on this one. It would have allowed the Iowa tuition grants to be used for comprehensive transition post-secondary programs. So those UI Reach or Northwestern's Next programs could have been eligible for the tuition grants. Really, it came down to the fact that there's some political issues with the tuition grants unrelated to this program, related to private schools, and just competition for it. So legislators really wish they could just have a separate appropriation for this program to help pay for that. But I think there's still a possibility that this is still discussed in the budget, if that's something of interest for you, but it won't go as a standalone bill, which is disappointing. But I will say that nobody thought that it was a bad idea to fund help students pay for these programs. House File 2269, you might recall a few years ago, legislators passed a bill that allowed there to be a little um, uh, icon or image in the bottom of a driver's license for somebody that denoted that they had autism. So if they were pulled over, a law enforcement officer would know um, the types of behavior to expect. And this would have broadened that for any kind of invisible disability, and it would have made it a little butterfly on the bottom. That did not pass. It came out of the House committee, but it never passed the House, so that did not make it this year. House File 2292 was a bill that would have doubled the number of beds at the MHIs, but it came with a very costly fiscal note. So it would have, I can't remember, Carlin, if you can remember, it was like 14 million or something like that for just building the the beds, not staffing them or anything like that. So that really died because of the cost. And also because there was some disagreement about whether you really needed to double the number of beds, and this mandated doubling them. You couldn't, you know, do half that number. Um, House File 2518 was a disappointing one that we thought was going to pass up until yesterday. It would have required home and community-based service providers get a review of their rates every 4 years. They really wanted it every 2 years, like other providers, but home and community-based services providers and child welfare providers are the only two that don't have a regular review. And this would have put that in there. Honestly, HHS didn't want to do it. They killed it. That is what a legislator, Senator Costello, told me. So it is secondhand that I heard that, but he basically said they don't want to do it. And so they put a big fiscal note on it to say it was going to cost like $2 million to do that. That was pretty disappointing. I believe this will still be discussed in the budget. I know this is a priority of the House. So the House File 2681, know a number of parents were watching this, had kind of split views on it, but allowed schools to place video recording systems in special education classrooms. Disability Rights Iowa was clear that the way it was written in the bill was not constitutional, or did not comply with federal law. So they would have had to have amended it. The bill just never passed out of the House, so it died. House File 2716 is the House version of public assistance reform. So you'll recall there were two versions, the House and the Senate. And the House had a lot of things in it, including the MAPD, Medicaid for Employed Persons with Disabilities, expansion to 300% of the federal poverty level. But the Senate did not take up the House bill, so it died. When we get to what passed, you'll note that the Senate bill did pass. So there is a bill that can be amended to include some of the things that were in the House bill. And that is their intention, is to look at what was in the House bill and what was in the Senate bill and start talking to each other about what they want in a final bill. Again, I just want to note that the bill tracker has all of these and others. I didn't include all of the ones that were being tracked in it. I have updated that this morning, so it should be completely updated from this deadline. A couple others that did not pass. There was an update to service animal rights. Basically, we had in our code list where service animals are allowed, and really that's guided by more federal and constitutional law. And so this would have just said they're allowed anywhere they're legally allowed. So that did not pass though. Senate File 2087 would have included participation in voc rehab programs as a part of the definition of work search for people that are getting unemployment benefits. That did not pass. Senate File 2404 was one that I know many of you were closely following, which would have set up a pilot program in a rural school district and an urban school district and allowed them to have a separate school for special education students or students that have challenging behaviors. That was very controversial, and it did not state that it would have been voluntary. And if it is not voluntary, then it is against federal law. So it also came with a pretty high fiscal note. I think it was about $4.5 million that they anticipated it would cost. So just going on to the bills that did survive the funnel, I want to note that last Capital Chat, somebody had asked us to, when we reference who is in charge of a bill, to mention how they can contact them. So I have posted this on our website, and it has the links to the legislators' contact information here. And at the end of this, I'll also show you where you can find it online. The bills that did make it, House File 2501 is one we're kind of watching. It's not many controversial things. Well, actually, there wasn't anything controversial in this bill on just updating election law. However, the House added language that got rid of the ability of a person, a voter in a district, to attest that a person is who they are. So say I come in to vote with my husband and he lost his license, his driver's license, and I could sign a piece of paper saying he is Gino Fleming and he is eligible to vote. So he would not have to bring his license. So they took that out, and the Secretary of State was not happy about that either. So the Senate took it out. When the House put it in, the Senate took it out. And so now it's back in the House with that Senate amendment. So that's why we're tracking it now, because I know a number of people might not have their driver's license when they want to go vote, and they have an option. There is an option to help allow them to vote if that happens. House File 2523 allows parents to directly commit a minor child without their consent, without a court order. So they're directly going to an MHI. This is in response to an incident that a parent, the child's provider, everyone agreed that that child should be, I think the child was like 11, should be committed to the MHI. And the child refused. So therefore they had to go through the court process to try to get them committed involuntarily, which was difficult. That is on the Senate floor. And again, these are the floor managers. So they're the people that are in charge of running the bill during debate. House File 2538 established new disciplinary procedures for students who have disorderly conduct in classrooms, and that might include somebody who's acting out because of their disability. So that is why we are watching that. It is pretty controversial. It is also in the Senate. Another bill in the Senate, it's been over there for a while, helps address some of the barriers in developing subacute mental health treatment options. So this is between being in an institution and being in the community. So somewhere in between that sort of step down, they call it step down care. So there's a gap between just releasing somebody to the community or being in an institution. House File 2585 is one that I know some individuals who are low vision and the blind community have been working on to require pharmacies to have accessible prescription label information, bag tags, options for people free of charge. Some pharmacies do it, others don't. There's a number of different ways that they can do this. There's some that have equipment, there's readers, there's QR codes, there's a lot of different options to make this accessible. So this is on the Senate floor with Senator Warmy right now. House Study Bill 759 is a pilot program to allow, this is actually Easter seals would get old or, equipment that people are no longer using and kind of refurbish, recondition them, fix them, get them ready for someone else on Medicaid free of charge. So that bill passed out of subcommittee a couple weeks ago. Representative Meyer was the chair of that subcommittee, and it's still in appropriations. So because it's in appropriations, it is not the fundal deadline didn't apply to it. It's also our bill of the week. I don't have it up on the website yet because Carlin and I are still working on it, but it is going to be our bill of the week. A few more. Sorry, there's a lot. House File 2608 and Senate File 2412 are both in the House right now. So really it'll be the Senate file will be the one that will take the lead. But it requires the use of the E-Verify system and the SAVE database. So these are federal database systems that you check for immigration and citizenship. So to make sure somebody is legally in the country for any state employment. The reason we have this in your list is the House version includes some more requirements for citizenship for voter registration, which even if you are a citizen, it may require you to get more documents and sign more oaths for citizenship. They may just make it a barrier to getting registered to vote or staying registered to vote. It probably will get taken out since the Senate bill is the lead bill now, and it does not have that in there. You may have been reading about this next one in the newspaper. It kind of came up in the last 2 weeks, but House File 2739. We talked about it last Capitol chat because it had just come out, but it was another bill number. It temporarily raises the HMO tax, so an private insurance tax, like on Wellmark, but from just under 1% to 3.5%. So it only raises it for this year and a little bit of next year. And it would generate $123 million for Medicaid. This is done strictly to get more money into Medicaid because we don't have enough money for it in the budget to keep it whole. So $70.3 million of that would be for the current year to get Medicaid to have enough money to get through this current fiscal year through July 1. And then the rest of that would go for the next year. It's very controversial. They're saying that for a family of 4, that would raise their premium rates by $500. I want to make note, insurers do not have to pass off this tax to the people buying insurance. They could just have less profit next year, but that's probably not what they're going to do. That is a choice of the insurer, and that is something that legislators keep reminding people, that they are profiting and they could just take it from their profits rather than pass it along to people that are buying insurance. Senate File 2315 is one you guys have all been watching. It is the one bill that increases the Medicaid for Employed Persons with Disabilities program to 300% of the federal poverty level, and allows you to do the online payment options for premiums. I was tired when I wrote this, so disregard the eliminates spousal income and disregards one car. That actually was in the House bill. House Public Assistance Bill, but my brain just, when I did this morning, I added it in here. So I will fix that and repost this on the website. But that that part will be discussed when we're talking about this next bill, Senate File 2422, which is the Senate's version of public assistance reform. And the good news here, while this is not a great bill because it puts more barriers into people getting food assistance, what's called SNAP program, and it does some other limiting things, but the Senate bill, you'll recall, locked the state into Medicaid managed care. So it put it into code saying you can't get out of it unless the legislature says it's okay to get out of it. The House committee took that out. So the House committee amendment will take out the Medicaid managed care language. And Representative Austin Harris was very clear in his remarks and said, and I quote, House Republicans are not interested in requiring legislative approval for Medicaid managed care. So I think that, or he said, well, the quote was that they're not interested in codifying managed care. So I just wanted to make note of that. The other parts of what the House had passed in their bill that eliminated spousal income, disregarded a car on the MEPD program, all of that will be discussed in whatever they're going to do with Senate File 2422. So those are all still in discussion. Finally, there's three more, and you can read those there. Another bill dealing with student disruptions. But this one is in the classroom clears. Right now it was for violent disruptions. They're saying that violent or nonviolent disruptions, which then causes a lot of other issues that we've talking about with individual students who may be acting out because of a disability or a condition or a mental health condition or trauma or some other aspect. There's also AI chatbots. The mental health community has been very concerned about some of them misrepresenting themselves as therapists or professionals or providing pretty harmful advice to people. So that would regulate those. And there's just this last one is one we're keeping an eye on because it would have said if the legislature can't pass a budget and can't agree to it, it would just revert to what is the existing budget is, which is a problem for Medicaid because just to keep Medicaid at the same level, it means we need an increase every year. And so also these links here are where you can find information about how to contact your legislators. So, or a legislator that we've talked about. So on the website, it would be under that legis.iowa.gov legislators. And then I just want to remind you our Who Represents You guide also has all of that contact information in there. So used up most of the time. I'm going to turn it over to Carlin for her portion here. And I see we have some chats, so I'll look at those here in a second and get my mouse to work.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks for doing all the heavy lifting today on that long list of bills. And that's, really been keeping us busy this year. It's just been so hectic trying to keep track of all of those bills. And several of them that have, they're not companion bills, but a House version and a Senate version that are basically trying to do similar things. And Amy mentioned that she mentioned it with the two bills that have to deal with public assistance. So even though House File 2716 didn't make the funnel, it doesn't mean some of those provisions in it can't make it into the other bill. So, which is Senate File 2422. So we're keeping a close eye on that. And we will be talking about that and other Medicaid issues at the April 1st Disability Advocacy Day. That is really going to be focused on Medicaid and even outside of what's going on in the legislature, some of the cuts that we're seeing and hearing from families and from disability advocates on Medicaid services and Medicaid hours that are being cut. So that will be the focus of that day. It is an advocacy day, so we will talk about messaging points and encourage you to visit with your legislators that day, as well as there's going to be a lot of organizations there that you can learn about services and supports and advocacy around these issues. So wanted to mention that, as well as because of the inclusion of managed care being codified in Senate File 2422. That's just brought up a lot of discussion about denials by managed care organizations and what's going on in Medicaid. And as a result of that, we are gathering more stories and plan on presenting those to legislators. And as well, Ann Meyer, who is the chair of House Health and Human Services Appropriation, is also offering to provide assistance along with HHS, Iowa HHS, provide assistance to people who have had denials that they can't work through, or just maybe need some extra help and might want to contact their legislators about it. And there's a form that we'll promote it on our website. I'm sorry, I didn't have it available today. That they're asking people to fill out if you would like some assistance. So that's a good thing. We'll make that available, and we're also collecting stories so that we can provide those to legislators also. And it hasn't taken much time to collect a lot of stories, so we know that's out there. And again, that'll be discussed on April 1st. Between that and the two other bills that we're keeping an eye on the education side, are the two that have to do with students' behavior in the classroom, as Amy mentioned. So if you have points that you would like for us to make sure, they're going to be negotiating which two of those bills are combining them, which ones survive. Please, let us know if there's things that you want to make sure do get through or don't. And we're looking at it from the legality of them too in federal law. So I want to thank all the advocates who have been working on the every bill that we're talking about, and it's been all over the place this year. People who have been calling, writing, emailing, commenting on Facebook. There's just been a lot of advocacy going on this year, and people who have come to the Capitol. And when you take the time to do that, it is recognized. Even if you come to a committee meeting just to sit in and listen, to hear what's going on, just know that legislators see you and hopefully hear from you outside of that too. So it is very much appreciated by those of us who are, there every day or almost every day, to have more advocates show up and use your voice too. So with that, I think we'll open it up to questions, or Brooke has a slide too. Sorry.
Yeah,
Brooke,
yeah. Just real quick, everyone, the DD Council, we are required every 5 years to develop a plan that includes what we're going to be working on. And if you can believe it or not, we're talking about 2027 to 31. So we put together draft goals and objectives that we have now open for public comment. And I will put the link in the chat so you don't have to copy that down. But we are open for public comment so we can hear from you what you think about those goals and objectives. And why that is so important is all of our advocacy work, like our Capitol Chat, our Infonet, our legislative guide, all of the advocacy that Carlin does at the Capitol, none of that can happen unless it's actually in our state plan. So also that includes our Make Your Mark conference and some of those events that you guys are used to us doing. So it's really important for you guys to look at what we're proposing and make public comment on it, so we can get that approved and send it on to the Fed. So thanks for giving me that opportunity to talk about that. Oh, and we will also be having listening sessions. Those were going to be taking place April 9th at 6, and you can register at this link, April 15th at noon, and then April 22nd at 4:30. So join us for those two, and we will actually walk through the plan for you and visit with you a little bit about it.
Well, that is our time. Sorry, everyone. We ran out before questions, but feel free to email Carlin or I if you have questions. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.